Tune in if you want to hear. So we have Chad, Josh, Dmitri, and Marcus every Friday.
It's the Square Round Table.
Tune in.
It's the Square Round Table podcast. Let's have a blast. I know at work you had a long day. Just relax and tune in.
So what is going on, my freaks and geeks? I want to welcome everybody to the Square Round Table podcast. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again tonight. We really appreciate everybody for coming out. We appreciate you guys for being on our journey. And tonight we're going to have an amazing episode, just like always. So for all of our viewers and listeners out there, tonight will be our season finale. So for this special occasion, we are honored to be chatting with award-winning screenwriter and producer and Eisner Award-nominated comic book creator, Mr. Rodney Barnes. So thank you so much, Mr. Barnes, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What's going on?
Thank you for having me. Yes, definitely. Of course.
Of course.
But one thing that I liked that I read about you is that you were talking about like different parts of your career and how at a certain point during these shows or during this time in your career, you were writing from your head instead of writing from the heart. And then you transitioned into doing projects more so where you were writing from the heart. I just want to know, like, as far as that transition, how does that differ for you? And what is the process? Like, is it like a different process for you, or is it like the same kind of muscles working? And was it a easy transition into doing the work where you're more so writing from your heart?
Yeah, it's the same muscle. Writing is writing, but I think I just professionally decided to move more towards writing drama and genre instead of writing sitcoms. That's really where that came from. I had done Everybody Hates Chris and My Wife and Kids in the Boondocks up until that point. And then if you look at my resume, I started to work on Runaways and American Gods and different types of things. So it was really more pivoting than anything else.
Okay. And as far as like pivoting into these areas, one thing that I always like to talk about when we have like different writers and things like that on the podcast and different creators, especially Black creators, I always, like my brother said, I always like to pick your brain about narrative. And a lot of the works that you've done, especially when you're talking about Monarch, Killadelphia, even down to Blackula, a lot of these areas that are like sci-fi and horror, for the longest they were totally, or at least for the most part, oversaturated they weren't with Black people for the most part. Taking Black people or African Americans and putting them in those areas of sci-fi and fantasy and horror, was that something that kind of came natural to you, or because of everything that was before, was it something that was hard to put into that realm?
I'd always written genre stuff. I just didn't have anything published or produced. It really wasn't that much of a change. It was just that I made more of a professional decision to work more in that arena and to push that stuff as much as I was pushing comedy. So it wasn't very difficult.
Well, I was just saying, so you basically just use the same set of skills across different genres. And it wasn't really anything. I can't say it wasn't really anything else that you had to learn, but you just have a Chinese blueprint for if you have one project that you did, you just copy that same doctrine to another one.
Yeah. Writing is writing regardless of the genre.
Yeah,
most definitely. That's definitely.
Yeah. So is there a certain point within your writing?
Do you think I wouldn't say more difficult, but do you think you have more of a like guide you have to follow by when it comes to writing for characters such in like the Star Wars universe, like Mandalorian or Lando, as filled to with Killadelphia, you can play in your sandbox with the world you already built yourself, or is it all the same when it comes to your writing?
It's a little different with the Star Wars stuff. I have to work within the adaptations. I have to do what they did on TV. So I'm mirroring what they did on TV. In Killadelphia, I can do anything that I want to do because it's my book and Jason's book. So
Yeah.
I don't have any rules. That's a little bit easier.
Okay. Did you enjoy writing for those characters? Or was it
Yes,
something you wanted to do, or just fell in your lap?
I love Star Wars.
Okay.
It's great being a part of the Star Wars universe. So yeah, it's an honor to work on those characters.
Yes, yes. I'm hoping myself one day I'll get that opportunity because, like you, I'm a big Star Wars guy, and I've been loving it ever since I can remember.
Cool. I'm
That's an
sure it'll
excellent.
come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Got to put
You're
it,
welcome.
like I always say, put it out there in the universe. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it out there in the galaxy far away.
That was a good one. But Mr. Barnes, like writing for things that exist versus writing for something that was completely non-existent before. Of course, you put it out into the world. I was reading something that was said in an interview, and I thought it was very interesting. Specifically, you were talking about having the past speak to the present. And that was specific for Blackula. And we actually did have the honor of speaking to Mr. William Crane and about how he felt about Blackula. And of course, it's a cult classic and we love it as well. So I want to know, like, why was that important to you to breathe life into a cult classic such as Blackula?
I saw it as a kid. It was very influential. Up until that point, I'd never really seen black people in horror films, and my mom took me to see it when I was younger, and it just had an effect on me. And I always said that if I had an opportunity to play in that space, I would writing comic books, and I could get a hold of Blackula, and I got the rights from MGM, the literary rights. I take a shot at doing it my way and updating it, and that's what I did.
Hmm. Wanted to that I get somebody on the podcast that writes horror. I just gotta ask. It's gonna happen. We have a lot of things going on right now, like you said, with you bringing out Blackula again, with what's already existed years prior. We have a lot going on with Jordan Peele, Nia DaCosta, Little Marvin with his series. So, what are your ideas or thoughts about the neo horror?
I'm a fan of everybody's name that you mentioned. Jordan has been very helpful to me. He actually gave us a blurb for the cover of Killadelphia. I think it's a great time.
Nice.
I hope that more people jump in and get in on the movement. I think it's a great time for horror of color.
One thing that I never really hear too much about, I know we had a guest previously that did it, but as far as writing for, I guess, like the Oscars and award shows, what is, I guess, the process of, is it more or less preparing jokes or is it like stage direct? What's the process behind writing for different award shows?
Each one is different, but with the Academy Awards, you write for the host. Both times I wrote for Chris Rock, and you're helping to write the monologue, you're writing jokes, you're writing a little bit of everything, but it's mostly that.
For sure. Um, so I would say, Mr. Barnes, so as far as your writing goes, Blackula, we talked about Killadelphia. So as far as that, like where did your inspiration for Monarch come from?
It was no real inspiration. It was just an idea about kids in school. One day an alien attack happens, and like I said, I just fleshed it out, and I thought it would be a good idea for something different than Killadelphia and Nita Hawes. So just put it together.
So basically, like you were saying, writing, like you were saying before, writing is just writing because it seems like throughout the duration, you're just basically, hey, it's the same muscles. So you just, regardless if it's in like award shows or for comic books or even same base of knowledge done throughout your career.
Yeah, there's no real. If I waited to be inspired to write, I'd be broke. It's a job. It's like you come up with ideas every day and just stick with them until some of them live, some of them died. But this kind of comes with the territory.
I definitely understand that. And one thing that, like Joshua said before, yeah, and like Joshua was saying before, like it seems almost effortless, but like you said, it's definitely not. And I watched another interview of yours, and you were saying that for every 20 or so projects that did see the light of day, there were like 100 or 1,000 that didn't. So with that being said, Mr. Barnes, I just wanted just some like advice for all of our viewers and listeners, because me, Joshua, and Marcus, we're all writers. We write. I want to pick your brain and chat with you. But with that being said, I definitely wanted to know for us and our viewers and listeners, writer that's just looking for that success, that's looking for that foot in the door, that's looking for that yes in a sea of no's. What would you say to that person?
I would tell them to develop their voice. All of us have different voices and different experiences that we can draw from. I would say read a lot, because reading and writing are relation. There's a relationship between the two of them. And I would say write every day. You only get better at something if you do it every day. And don't wait until you get inspired. Whether you feel like it or you don't feel like it, get up every day and write. That's what I'd say.
That's great advice, and I never really thought about having that mindset. But just
Huh,
it's just making sure that
I was about to
you
say I definitely like that.
constantly trying to exercise that you're just that muscle, that creative muscle, regardless of if you don't have, if you might not have any like inspiration. Just
Like hitting the gym.
going, just do exactly, just hitting the gym, hitting the creative writing gym, like
Yep.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that is great advice, because I know it's some days where I don't want to write anything at all, and I'm not inspired for it to save my life, and I just be looking for it. But Mr. Barnes said, if you do write every day, whether it's a paragraph, a sentence, 4 pages, you just have to keep working that muscle, because it's like your brain is a muscle. And if you don't work it, or if you don't keep it sharp, it'll start lacking off, and you'll lose ideas, and it'll fumble around, and you'll have to try to find something and put it together. And so forth. If you just keep writing and writing and putting those little things down. Like for me, I have 10,000 sticky notes on my desk sometimes, in my notebooks, because you just have to put something down on paper so you'll exercise that muscle. But definitely, that's the greatest advice that I've ever gotten right there, because I understand it from a writer's point that some days you just are not inspired to write at all, and you do have to do something, because if you don't, it's just you're just not using what God gave you.
No, totally, and I appreciate how quick and to the point that is, because you probably already know Mr. Barnes, but there's so many articles and so many second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th opinions about how one is able to frame a story, and they use all these crazy fancy words and just getting a simple, to the point idea about how to do those things. They don't do that. People don't do that at all. They want to give you this essay about how to create a story, and that's everybody. So that's definitely, I really appreciate that point of view.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no problem. And Mr. Barnes, with that being said, of course, it's been a pleasure. We definitely appreciate having just a little bit of your time to talk to some nerds and some fans. We really do appreciate you coming out for our final episode of this year. So it's been an honor. It really has.
I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you taking your time to talk to me. I really do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, the pleasure
Of
is
course. Definitely. Thanks for coming out.
Oh, of course. Yes, for sure. For sure. Mr. Barnes, going on with you. How could everybody not, but just let everybody know what you got going on, where they could find your social media accounts, where they could find you, all of that good stuff. So the floor is yours before we head out.
Yeah, got a couple of shows in development at HBO. Got a couple of podcasts that I do. You can find out mostly Twitter and Instagram is where I'm most active, at the Rodney Barnes. That's where I go to do most of my communicating with the world.
awesome. And we'll make sure to put all that, in our description below, so you guys could go find Mr. Barnes and check out all his great work that he's done over the years.
totally.
It will continue to do. Yes.
I hope so, but thank you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. And with that being said, guys, like we do every week, guess what time it is?
It's time for our good old shameless promotional.
Yes, guys. So we have our shameless promotional. So we are the Square Roundtable Podcast, guys. You can catch this amazing episode as well as all of our other episodes on our website, squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. And one more time, that is squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. And you can also go to our YouTube channel of the same name, Square Roundtable. And make sure you follow us on our social medias, guys. Follow us on our Facebook, follow us on our Instagram, follow us on our TikTok. Kinda, even though we're not really, and so we're gonna get together with that TikTok. But you can also follow us on our Twitter, guys. And yeah, like nerd out about Rodney's books. We can nerd out about TV series. There's so much, guys, we can nerd out about. So please comment under our video, or we can go ahead and talk about it. And with that being said, I would love everybody, including our wonderful guests for the evening, to introduce themselves one more time before we head out. And as always, I am your host, Chad
Josh
Singleton.
Singleton, hashtag yes, hashtag no.
And I'm Marcus Long.
And I'm Rodney Barnes.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
and
this
this has been the Square Roundtable Podcast.
Right.
We